Have you ever noticed how a little bit of pressure can actually help you get things done? Hit that deadline. But then too much pressure just makes your brain shut down? It's a weird balance, right? Some stress makes us sharp, but an overload sends us straight into burnout. So what's going on there?
Hey everyone, and welcome to Jasim Graphs. I'm your guide to understanding stress management. Today, we're going to unpack the science of pressure. And more importantly, we're going to give you some real tools to not just deal with it, but to actually use it to your advantage. Here's the game plan for today. First, we're going to break down the two main types of stress. Then, we'll get into the really fascinating relationship between pressure and how well you perform. And finally, we'll wrap up with some practical tools that you can start using right now. All right, let's jump right in. The most important thing to get straight from the beginning is that stress isn't just one thing. Not all stress is created equal. There are actually two very different kinds we need to talk about. Okay, so on one side, you've got acute stress. This is the short-term stuff. Think about the jitters you get before a big presentation. As soon as it's over, phew, that feeling goes away. But on the other side, we have chronic stress. And honestly, this is the one we really need to watch out for. It's that long-term, grinding pressure that just never seems to let up. Because when that chronic stress, especially from work, is just left to fester, well, that's the direct path to something I'm sure we've all heard of, job burnout. It's that profound feeling of being totally and completely exhausted, both physically and emotionally. You just feel done. And the ripple effects of chronic stress are huge. I mean, it demolishes our performance at work because we can't focus, we have no energy. It puts a massive strain on our relationships with friends and family. It can even lead to serious issues like anxiety and depression. And yes, it has very real negative impacts on our physical health. Let's use a quick example to make this super clear. Let's say we have Maria. The nervous energy she gets right before a big client pitch, that's acute stress. It's temporary, it'll pass. But that constant, nagging, day in, day out feeling that she is just drowning in her workload, that is chronic stress. And that's the real problem we need to solve. So if that little bit of acute stress can actually be a good thing, how do we find that perfect Goldilocks amount of pressure? Not too little, not too much, to be at our absolute best. Well, this leads us to a really cool idea from psychology. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson Law. And honestly, this is a total game changer. The basic idea is that our performance improves with a bit of stress, but only up to a peak. Once you go over the top of that peak, your performance doesn't just slide, it falls off a cliff. Getting your head around this can totally change how you approach challenges. And this visual right here, this stress-o-meter, makes it so easy to understand. You can see there's this lazy zone on the left where stress is too low. Then there's the panic zone on the right where it's way too high. Our goal is to live in that sweet spot right in the middle, the optimal performance zone. So let's break down those three zones. First, you have the low stress zone. That's where we're bored, we're unmotivated, and not much gets done. Then you've got the high stress zone. Here, we're anxious, overwhelmed, and our performance just tanks. The mission is to find and stay in that middle zone, that optimal stress sweet spot, where we feel focused, challenged, and totally on our game. A perfect analogy for this is a video game. Come on, think about it. If the level is way too easy, it's just boring, right? If it's impossibly hard, it's just frustrating and you quit. But that one level that's perfectly challenging, that's what puts you in a state of flow. You're completely locked in and you're performing at your peak. That's the zone. Okay, so theory is great, but knowing our goal is to stay in that optimal zone, the big question is, how do we actually do that? How do we stay there? Well, let's get practical and talk about some tools. Our first tool is all about playing offense, not defense. It's called stress inoculation. And yeah, it works kind of like a vaccine. The whole idea is to build up your resilience and prepare yourself for stressful events before they happen, instead of just reacting when they hit you. And it's a pretty simple three-step process. Step 1, figure out what your specific triggers are. What actually stresses you out? Step 2, learn some new coping skills to deal with those specific things. And step 3, and this is key, you practice those skills when the stakes are low, so you're ready when a real high-pressure situation comes along. But what about when stress just ambushes you out of nowhere? For those moments, you need a tool that works right now, and that's where box breathing comes in. It is a super simple, super powerful breathing technique that sends a direct signal to your nervous system to just chill out. It lowers your heart rate and puts you back in the driver's seat. And it's so easy. You can do it anytime, anywhere. You just breathe in for a count of 4, hold your breath for 4, slowly breathe out for 4, and hold again for 4. That's it. You just repeat that cycle a few times and you will feel a difference. It's amazing. So let's check back in with Maria and see how this all connects. To handle her chronic workload stress, she uses stress inoculation to prepare and rehearse for a tough conversation with her boss. But when she gets pulled into a surprise meeting and feels that spike of acute stress, she uses box breathing right there at her desk to instantly calm her nerves. See? Offense and defense. So if there's one big idea to take away from all this, it's this. The goal is not to get rid of all pressure. Come on, a life with no challenges would be incredibly boring. The real goal is to learn how to manage that pressure, to keep it in that sweet spot where it works for you, instead of letting it push you into burnout. All right, let's boil it all down. If you remember nothing else, remember these 3 keywords. Number 1, chronic stress. That's the big, long-term enemy you need to manage. Number 2, Yerkes-Dodson Law. That's the bell curve that shows you your performance sweet spot. And number 3, box breathing. That's your go-to tool for instant calm. Hey, if this explainer helped things click for you and you got some value out of it, please do us a favor and hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe to Jasim Graphs for more breakdowns like this one. And just a final note, this explainer was made with some help from AI tools. And as always, it's a good idea to double-check any important facts. And especially when it comes to your health, please make sure you're talking to a professional. Thanks so much for watching.